Welcome to Scrambled, your space for fertility, owning your 30s, and the scramble that makes it all worth it. Okay, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today's guest is Dr. Kay Linker, a neuroscientist specializing in aging, longevity, and cognitive performance with a focus on women's health. With over a decade of experience and research published in top journals like Nature, she's also founder of Aonion, a brand creating science-backed longevity supplements designed specifically for women. In this episode, we explore how to optimize brain health, extend longevity, and what women need to know to take control of their health. We also have her missed bust and break down the fads of today to know what we should be listening to and what isn't worth the hype. So let's dive in. Welcome,
Yeah.
Dr. Kay.
I'm excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. I feel like we have focused on so many things on Scrambled, but majority have been fertility specific. But so much of like your fertility and just your general health relates back to like how you treat your body, what you do to your body, what's important. And there's just so much information out there and there's so much misinformation out there. So to have someone like you on the podcast is exciting for us because we can finally break down a lot of the things that are out there, learn to focus on what is important and what we don't probably need to know. So can you firstly just start by talking about what drew you to neuroscience? I know you have a PhD. What made you focus in longevity and specifically women's health? Just give us a little background.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of a lost puppy when I first left high school and went to college. I did art history and I did all these things that I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I worked in a neuroscience lab and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. You get to understand how the brain works. It's the most mysterious organ and the coolest organ. And so from that point on, I was obsessed, did a PhD. And then in my PhD, I studied addiction, which I found really fascinating. But as I was sort of getting more into health myself, like you finished college, I had for sure the college 15, and I was starting to get into my health more. And there were, these podcasts coming up like Rhonda Patrick. And I was listening to those and I was like reading papers on my own. And it just made me realize that I'm very interested in longevity and having proactive health measurements. So why don't I study that in the lab? So I did a postdoc and studied brain aging, and sort of that is how I got into it. Yeah.
The neuro lab that you initially mentioned, was that just like a course you took or how did you find that?
So I did UCLA undergrad and yeah, there's a ton of labs on campus, and there was an advertisement to be an intern in one basically. And she did all this dopamine research and reward, and I just was fascinated.
I guess just with all the information that's out there today, longevity, health, protein, fiber, muscle, strength training, cardio, blah, blah, blah. It's always changing. Vegan. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you believe about longevity or you believe are the biggest misconceptions?
Oh, I mean, you kind of mentioned one that's controversial, but I don't think vegan is healthy. I mean, if you have to supplement because your diet isn't giving you everything,
Yeah.
it's clearly not a great diet. And you have bone density issues, especially in women. If you're doing it for moral reasons, I totally respect that. And there's ways you can get around what you're missing. But in terms of doing it for health, it's not great for you. I think another thing is having high intensity workouts is important. You need some, but you need to have a balance. So I feel like there's two camps of vigorous only, and every time you go to the gym, you need to be dying like you're at a Barry's boot camp workout, or soft girl Pilates, where the reality is you need a mix.
We talk about that a lot because we've had some amazing people come on and we've had nutritionists and things that even talk about specifically for women that we have different cycles that we go through hormonally, and you should respect your body in different cycles as to how you move and things like that. And I think it's so important to know that it's not just a one size fits all. You have to have variety.
And I think another, as we're talking about trend these days is strength training for women. I think a little bit ago, women were probably scared of that. They didn't want to be bulky. And now it's like that's one of the most important things to prolong your life and to build muscle and to build health.
Yeah, and I will say I was doing strength training, especially in my early 20s. It gets harder to bulk as you get older because it's just harder to build muscle. I did get bulky. I was doing F45, which is a very similar workout to Barry's, every single day. No cardio, which is another mistake. And so You can bulk. It is possible. But if you do strength training 2-3 times a week, you're not going to bulk.
Talk about like longevity as a term is, I guess, it's the ideal. Like everybody wants longevity, obviously, from their life. And it's the goal for all of us to live as long and healthy as possible, I would assume, for most people anyway. What is longevity? And specifically, like, what are the cognitive changes that go on over our lifespan, specifically for women, if you don't mind focusing on us, because I know it's different for men and women.
Longevity is this hot topic word that now has spanned out to umbrella basically anything involving health and wellness. Traditionally, it really meant if something is geroprotective, meaning it promotes longevity, it extends lifespan, it does so in a way that's not targeting a specific health concern, cardiovascular health or brain health. It's targeting an aging pathway like mitochondrial dysfunction or senescence or autophagy and extends lifespan that way. I think one of the biggest changes that you have in female longevity is menopause. Men gradually have a decrease in testosterone, and both testosterone and estrogen and progesterone in women affect far more than just your fertility. It affects your brain, it affects your bone density, it affects your muscle mass. And when you have this cliff, it can cause real issues across the board and especially for the brains. If you do HRT, hormone replacement therapy, within 5 years, menopause or late perimenopause have a 30% reduction risk in Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
30% is wild.
Estrogen is a powerful brain geroprotector.
Yeah, interesting. It's funny that you say that specifically about estrogen because I work in a setting where I'm dealing with patients on a day of their egg retrieval. So they're at a peak level of their estrogen level based off of the medications that they've been taking, and they've grown all these follicles that produce estrogen. And some women come in and they're like, I don't want to lose this high. Like my brain is thriving on these high levels of estrogen. And then they do experience a crash when that sudden drop.
Yeah, I did egg retrieval and I was prepared getting all the hormones leading up to it to have lots of mood shifts and weight gain and all these things. I was fine, and then it was the crash after. It was after where I really had detrimental side effects that I had to deal with.
Yeah, that was me too. I felt great during the whole time. I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm happy. I'm moving." And then I was like, "Whoa."
It honestly lasted far longer too than I expected. It was far harder on my body than I really appreciated. That's why I just did one.
I try and be very frank and honest with people about what their recovery will look like, but it's hard to explain what that's going to feel like on your body.
Yeah, because you don't experience it till you try it.
It's
Yeah.
intense, and everyone also has different symptoms. I had lymph node swelling in my armpits that I still will get occasionally around my period, never had it before. Clearly some sort of inflammatory effect that triggered, and now I have a higher baseline in terms of something that's gonna trigger that inflammation, yeah.
Alzheimer's in women and men, so it's becoming more common. Dementia's becoming more common. What's the reason for that and how to prevent that? I'm just like thinking on a personal level, like my dad's starting to forget things. I'm starting to forget things.
Yeah, so 2 out of 3 AD cases are women, and this is not just because we live on average 5 years longer. There was different Mendelian genetic studies that showed that this is something that has to do with female biology, and we're still just starting to understand the differences between male and female brains, and I mean, females weren't even needed in clinical studies until 1993, so we're really behind in terms of trying to understand female biology. In terms of specific dementia, Parkinson's is a male-dominated neurodegenerative disease, and I think the biggest driver of that is pesticides and pollutants, and there was an incredible study that looked at people that lived near golf courses, and they had a 5x higher chance of getting Parkinson's, which is crazy because if you live near a golf course, you're probably financially doing well. You don't have that confounding factor of, poor health outcomes with being poor. And with AD, I think it's a combination of metabolic and hormonal things with women. So when you have that massive estrogen drop, you're more sensitive to insulin changes, which really affect the brain, as well as more likely to gain fat and have reduced metabolic capabilities, which is so important for the brain.
Okay. I was actually listening to a podcast today and they were talking about how butter is currently trending again because we've realized like the brain needs fat and now butter's like not a scary thing anymore. And I'm like, It's so funny how we do go through these phases, but it all links back to we're all so much more focused, I think, on our brain health and our longevity now than maybe we ever have been before. Can I ask, and it's like in the same realm, how much in terms of cognitive decline, how much is like our lifestyle factors and decisions versus genetics? Like, what's
Mhm.
the balance there in what our outcomes will be?
I would say over 90% is lifestyle.
Wow.
But it's in your control, so that's good. So, okay, so 90% of whether you're going to get dementia or not is lifestyle. Even when you look at Alzheimer's, carriers of ApoE4, which is a risk factor for Alzheimer's, it's the biggest genetic risk factor we know. You can get to a place where you have a lower risk than someone with an ApoE3 just by lifestyle. It's predominantly metabolic. So, what does ApoE do? It transfers lipids into the brain. So, it's helping with that energy balance. And so, if you have a kind of defective one, then your brain's going to be much more sensitive to metabolic inflexibility. So, you want to make sure that your cholesterol's in check, your ApoB is good, you have good cardiovascular metrics, and you do that through supplementation, diet, exercise.
It's so interesting too, because you're talking about living on a golf course and increase in pesticides and then increase in these diseases and whatnot. But you would think that like living in the sun and on a golf course and a healthier lifestyle, might be easier to control these things.
Yeah, just goes to show those factors beyond
They're
like
everywhere. It's
the
not just in
external.
a disgusting New York City. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, how old are you when your cognitive function starts to decline?
So it's hard because cognitive function, I think, can be broken up into several different buckets. But let's talk pure processing speed. Because, of course, as you get older, you gain more knowledge. You can then connect those concepts, and that's a more abstract. But processing speed is how fast are you going to get a concept from the paper into your brain. And that will start to slow as early as 25, 28. I mean, I even noticed it when I was in my PhD. I feel like I could remember so much more than I could.
I need to know about intermittent fasting. It's like
Uh-huh.
a huge one that keeps coming up and it goes in and out of fashion. For me, I'm like, shouldn't we be fueling our brain consistently while we're awake? I don't know. That to me makes sense, but
It's hard because I think there's competing data and there's also competing biology. So if you wake up and you're starving, eat. It's silly to starve yourself because someone did a rat study on intermittent fasting and showed that they lived longer. And then there's technical arguments about, well, if it's isocaloric, are they actually losing weight? And the answer is no. But in practicality, if people are intermittent fasting and they're eating less and their goal is to lose weight, then that's a good thing. I think it depends on your body and what works for you. I think a best rule is just don't eat 3 hours before bed. And actually, if you do that, you will be close to intermittent fasting most of the time. So,
What about some other fads like cold plunging, infrared saunas, all the facial red light therapy, period. I mean, all of it.
yeah. So, cold plunging, there's no real evidence that it helps with longevity. It clearly can help with immediate focus for the next few hours after. The thing is with women, it does this through norepinephrine, which is in low doses a focus signal and then in high doses a stress signal. But we have more neurons that make that. That's why we're more stress sensitive. And so for cold plunge for women, you want to do a higher temperature and a shorter amount of time to get the same benefits that a man would.
It's funny too, because again, it's a fad. So the fad is the only thing people are talking about, but it is different for women and men for most things in life. And you don't hear that part of it.
Yeah, because the opposite is true for sauna. So we actually can become more heat adapted. And you can even notice just with how hot a man's shower is versus a woman's, like females tend to have much harder showers than a man's because we can adapt to heat more quickly. Yeah, so infrared sauna and traditional sauna are great for cognitive longevity, cardiovascular longevity, all-cause mortality, but you need to be doing it 4 times a week. 20 minutes for traditional, probably 30 to 40 for an infrared.
We've got to ask about because it comes up a lot. It's actually recommended a lot in like the fertility world. I mean, obviously, it helps with cellular health. NAD plus, because it's something that I think we all want more of or need in our bodies, but it's not something that's easily like absorbed, is it? It's like,
The NAD story is so complicated, but it's talked about so frequently that it's I actually don't talk about it that much because it is spoken about so frequently and I just get annoyed. I'm like, okay, all this is frustrating. But let's do like a mini deep dive. So there's kind of three main ways you get NAD, right? You can inject it, you can do an IV, or you can do a supplement. Let's start with supplementing. So if you supplement, you can't just take NAD, right? It breaks down. So you need to take a precursor. That's why you have NR and NMN, and these have the most evidence for them in terms of improving recovery, muscle strength, certain aspects of cardio fitness, but all that data is pretty early. There's a lot of clinicians that really swear by it and patients that love it. But for the amount of hype it is, there's like this much data and like this much hype. But I'm not against it. I think that there's something there and we just need to learn more. In terms of NAD injections and IV, there is no NAD transporter to get NAD into cells. So when you get an NAD injection or IV, it is converted into a precursor and then taken up by your cells.
So should you just take the precursor?
Yeah, some people say they have better results with injections. I don't know anyone that likes an IV over the injections. The only reason I can think of some people having better results with injections is some cells can take up NMN and some cells can take up NR, and it's mixed. So let's say you have it, but if you're injecting NAD, everything's going to be converted into the precursor that that cell can take up. So you could also just take a mix of NMN and NR.
Okay. Because going for an IV or an NAD injection, it's not a cheap thing to do either. So to think you're doing that and then potentially not even
Yeah,
absorbing it seems crazy.
I agree.
Is NAC the same as NAD?
No, so NAC is a precursor to glutathione. Glutathione kind of has the same issues as NAD in that you can't just take it orally. If it's liposomal, it's better. You can inject glutathione, that also works, but NAC is going to increase glutathione levels, which is your body's natural, most abundant antioxidant. So it scavenges free radicals, which cause inflammation and DNA damage, and NAC really supports that. There's actually far more data on NAC with health than NAD or NMN or NR.
So if I take that alone, I don't need a precursor. I can just take it and it's good for you.
Yeah. NAC is the precursor. Yeah.
Can we talk about creatine? Because I feel
Oh, yeah. And also, I want to hear about red light therapy too.
So yeah, creatine's been around forever. It's one of the most well-studied supplements. Previously was studied with 5 grams for muscle strength and recovery and fast twitch muscle fibers and really just improving performance. And a lot of athlete studies demonstrating that it improves performance. But in the past 5 years, there's been more and more studies showing that 10 grams can actually have incredible impacts on brain health, both for depression and also dementia.
My coworker just told me this. Her dad's been taking it before bed. It's helping him sleep and then feeling more energetic the next day.
Yeah, no, that's true. There was a study on that. Yeah, it's true.
yeah. All right. We got to get into red light for you.
Yeah, I need to know red light.
Okay, so red light has amazing benefits. It's not BS. There's a lot of really, really bad products out there, but a good red light has incredible benefits for skin health and for fertility. So there's really incredible research both with men and women for red light improving fertility. And when you think about the mechanism, it makes sense because red light improves mitochondrial function. And ovaries have 30 times more mitochondria than any other cell, which is insane. It has 300,000 to 600,000 mitochondria. That is off the charts. That's 30,000% more. And so it's obviously extremely energy dependent, and red light helps with that.
Wow. And so should we be quite literally exposing our entire body to red light? Like what's the best way and how often and what duration? Like how much do we
Okay,
need?
so this is where it really depends on the device. So yeah, I have a panel. I basically get out of the shower, get and like sit in front of it and do my whole body. In terms of timing and how often, how long, you need to know the irradiance of the device. Most people do not publish this, which is bizarre because this is like taking a supplement and not knowing the dose. So if you don't have the irradiance, you don't know the actual amount of power that's coming out, and then you don't know how long to sit. So you want to get about 15 joules per centimeter square inch. So if you have like a 50 milliwatt one, then you'll sit there for 5 minutes.
What about those red light masks?
Yeah, so I used to think they're all BS, but a few have come up. So the most recent current body one has, I think, 200 LEDs, and they have an irradiance of 26. And so that's not bad. That's pretty good. I'm going to just throw shade. The Dr. Dennis Gross one's really bad.
I figured it has too much hype. So I'm like, how could it?
It's not good. It also has only 100 LEDs. Like, you look at it and I can, yeah, just tell it's not good. Because if you don't have enough power, you're not going to see the benefits. When I show people my red light at home, they're like, whoa, that's so bright.
Panel one, though, technically is your face is getting exposed to it too. So it's essentially like wearing the mask, but allowing your whole body to have the exposure to the red light.
Panels are far more powerful. So any panel is going to be 10 to 20x more powerful than a mask.
What is your take on alcohol?
Oh, okay. So in general, with all this health stuff, I'm an 80-20 girl. So I love a pasta. I love a dirty martini. I'm not a Brian Johnson type. So in terms of alcohol, for me, I limit it to if I'm going to go out and have drinks. Don't have alcohol at home, really. If I'm going out with the girls and we're going to have a martini or two, that's when I'm drinking.
For anything, it's like the balance thing, because if you go too hard in any direction, there's that risk of like quote unquote relapse. Whereas if you don't demonize any one thing and you can incorporate it into a healthy lifestyle, it's going to be far more sustainable for you to be able to consistently stick to.
Peptides. Peptides is the new fad. GLP-1, all those subcutaneous injections. I have a torn glute and I used to do the PRP shots and now they're like, no, peptides. Peptides will work.
Yeah. So peptides are huge. They're here to stay. They're not a fad. It doesn't matter if you hate them or you love them. They're not going anywhere. It's a tool. So saying all peptides are good or all peptides are bad is like saying every single pharmacological drug is good or bad. They have different purposes, they have different uses, and they have different side effect profiles and risks. So obviously the biggest one that we think about is GLP-1s and all the different kinds of GLP-1s, but insulin is the OG peptide that diabetics use. They're like little chisels. They're not a hammer, they have specific uses.
Yeah. I mean, I guess with GLP-1s too, aside from weight loss, people are finding other benefits in it, like inflammation decrease and cognitive function. People are saying they can think better and more clearly too,
Yeah. So when I first started reading about GLP-1s as a more broadly longevity tool, not just for weight loss, I totally thought this was a pharma play. I'm like, okay, they're getting it on the kids and then they're getting it on, they're just trying to get us all on it. But when you look at the data, it's real. You see better improvements in metabolic portfolios compared to metformin. And I think we're going to start to get really targeted ones. So in terms of brain, there was a few studies that demonstrated it slowed or decreased Alzheimer's symptoms, but then there was another phase 3 basically for Alzheimer's specifically that failed. And they think it's because of like blood-brain barrier. So now they're coming out with a brain-specific one. So I think we're just at the beginning. We're truly just at the beginning.
We're all going to be robots by the end of 2040.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that we could, become immortal with everything we're learning. It's wild, wild. All right, let's hit her with some rapid fire now. Okay. What is one habit that everyone should start tomorrow?
Walking after dinner.
Oh, I like that.
How many minutes? 10?
30? Anything is better than nothing.
Okay.
30 minutes because decreases your glucose, right?
Yeah, and it helps you get ready for bed. Also, you could be seeing the sun setting. It sets your circadian.
One thing to stop immediately.
Deadlifts. I'm not a fan of deadlifts if you're doing that.
Whoa. Because it's a personal preference or?
I think it's so injury prone.
Okay, best brain boosting investment under $100.
Creatine, I guess. Yeah.
How much is a good LED light?
You can get a good one for like 400.
Okay.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
What is your non-negotiable daily routine?
I would say a workout in a sauna. And I do 15 minutes of yoga every day for stretching. And I feel like that just sets my mind and it makes my body feel better.
I always get annoyed at workout classes when people leave for the stretch at the end. I'm like,
no, me too. It's a pet peeve.
Wait, guys, that's obviously me. I run out.
5 minutes of you've already invested in
I'm
being here.
Sprinting out quicker than before they even say it's time for stretch.
I'm like, you're wasting your own time and money, you idiots.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Kay, can you tell us a little bit about the brand that you founded and where we can find it and where we can find you as well?
Yeah, so I made a female-focused longevity supplement called Aeonian for women. It has B vitamins, inositol, collagen, spermidine, which we actually didn't talk about today. But I really designed it because so much of the biohacking space is made for men, and all of these supplements are designed for men. And I wanted something for women, and I didn't want to take a ton of pills, so I just put everything in one powder that I would take in a day, and yeah.
And where can we find it if we want to purchase it? Is it through your website?
Yeah, aeonian.org. I think I also have it linked on my Linktree and Instagram. If I don't, I'm like a terrible business person. I literally just made this for myself. I'm like, let's try this. No, I love it.
No, I like your content. It's fun.
And it is definitely linked in your personal Instagram. So we'll put all of that in our show notes as well so people can easily find it.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. This was fun.